Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com with this week's episode of the Market Monday. So this week I'm going to talk about two topics. The first being Magic Gathering Online and announce a new video series that I think I'm going to keep unlisted. I don't know if I should start a brand new channel. I just don't want to spam my channel with market type videos, especially MTGO market. So let me know in the comment section below if you're interested in this being on the main channel. The problem with going on a second channel is I'd have to get enough subscribers and views fast enough that I can actually upload more than 10-minute videos, because a lot of them are lengthier videos as I go step by step my spec picks and actually going through the motions of buying them from bots and selling them to bots. So we're on week number 2 with that. I've got a huge 46-minute video that's unlisted right now, as well as a what I call day 2 update for it's a 100 ticket challenge is what it is. So I started with 100 tickets, and we're going to see how high I can increase my ticket quantity in, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, a year. I don't know. Maybe it'll just be an ongoing thing where I've dedicated 100 tickets to a particular account, and that's all I'm going to do on that account is speculate on cards. So that's going to be one of the topics of the day, is that whole video series, and probably the most important thing as far as MTGO is concerned, besides just the obvious rotations and reprints and events that go on that affect the supply going into the market. There is one other major thing, and we'll talk about that shortly, as well as I'm going to give my unbiased review of Cardsphere. Cardsphere is a new trading platform. I don't even want to compare it to Puka Trade because they're very, very dissimilar, and we'll get to that at the second part. So let's just strap right in and talk about Magic Gathering Online. Like I said, I started a challenge, 100 tickets, going to be seeing how high I can increase that quantity. And one of the things that you need to do if you're going to be entering the market with Magic the Gathering Online is you need to be very aware of the updates, especially what's called the curators list. So Magic Gathering Online works a lot different than Paper Magic because they can regulate the type of cards or the supply that is going into the market at any given notice. They do this in two ways. First off is their treasures system, and second off, they can print any sort of promo. And they give out promos a lot of times just for participation, very similar to Friday at Magic. And this really, really affects the market. So you need to be aware of those. There's a massive fatal push sell-off, for example, because of two things. It's going to be the F&M promo, or in this case, I believe it's called the Thursday Magic Online promo, as well as there is going to be it is increasing it a ton on the curators list. So what is the curators list? This is what is on the treasure chest. So you need to, I hate Wizards website because it's the most convoluted. Nothing it's not very user friendly. I wish that they'd have a huge overhaul of who at least manages the website, or at least make it so that the information is a lot easier to come by. But Google searches usually do find this. So treasure chests are something that are awarded instead of packs. They used to give out packs for constructed play. Now they give out the treasure chests, and treasure chests can contain play points, which can allow you to enter more tournaments. It also has cards based upon there are 3 slots. There's going to be slots that have either commons or uncommons from standard sets. Then they have a slot that's like 1 modern legal rare, and then they have a slot called the curator slot, like these cards that only exist in this other slot that you have a chance of getting. So they have a frequency ratio of how many times you get those based on other cards. So the power is a frequency ratio of 1. So any of the power 9 you can get at a ratio of 1. So you can see that all of these you're going to get more likely per the number here is how many times more likely you are to get this than a power in that particular slot. So why is this important? Because they have the old frequency ratio and the new frequency ratio, which 100% does affect the prices of the cards. So as you can see right now, Aether Vials going from a 6 and a 20 ratio, so effectively a 26 ratio to a 6 ratio. You can see also the Aetherix Marvel, but they're actually going to get rid of them. In fact, here's a little bit of an update. If you do get an Aetherix Marvel, you can contact their game support and get a new treasure, because they just say that since it's banned, they don't want to be giving that out. which is funny because Aetherworks Marvel is actually starting to see play in Modern, so there might actually be a demand for the Marvel in a few weeks, months down the road if the deck does take off. So as you can see here, like on Johnny Unyielding used to have a frequency ratio of 0. Its new frequency ratio will be 6. So Johnny Unyielding will probably go down in value unless it does see some major play. So this is really good to get ahead of. The bots are pretty smart. Once they see this, they input it, and I think they naturally just do decrease their prices based upon knowing that more supply will come in. So this is effective today. I believe it's June 10th when these treasures are, yeah, it's today with the rotation or with the release of Our Devastation that the new ratios are going to happen. So you can see like Armageddon, for example, is in the Masterpiece Series 3. It didn't exist before. You're gonna have a 20 times more likelihood. So 20 is actually quite high. So it's a lot more likely. So things that stand out you really want to see before you invest in is cards that are tier 1 strategies in Modern. They go from a frequency ratio of higher to lower. So Arcbound Ravager is a card that will most likely go up in the next few weeks. And so based upon that information, you can easily just spec into it and this card will go up. Then we can go down here and we can just see like all of these. A lot of them are just these masterpieces that go from 0 to 20. But you can see like Batterskull, they've decided they need more Batterskull because Batterskull's price is pretty high. And that way, let's just, yeah, we'll look at some of these prices here in a second. So you can see that these Kaladesh lands it's just funny because I actually invested in some of these, go from 0 to 20. So I wish I would have checked the curators list and actually not spec'd into a bunch of these. Maybe I'll have to sell them off just to cut my losses. But they're going to try to keep their land base low, which I think is smart. Or the supply high and the demand are lower from the price is what I'm trying to say, so that people can actually play their formats at a cheaper price. So Braid of Fire, for example, is going from a 12 to 0. This kind of took off initially for the Commander. You can see a lot of the Commander cards now going back down from what they were. Caverns of Souls from 12 to 6 because it's also included in Modern. And yep, even Chandra from a 0 to a 6 to elevate some of the price gains of Chandra. And it's just good to look down this list and see where these gains can be made just based upon supply and demand ratios. So yeah, it's very straightforward. This is insanely important because you can get ahead of these price spikes, or you can see like Metallic Mimic, for example. This card is probably something you want to get out of on MTGO because it's going from a ratio of 0 to 20, and that is very, very significant. Let's find Fatal Push here. So Fatal Push gets a double whammy on this because it's going from a ratio of 0 to 25. So you have a 25 times more likely chance of getting this than the power. It is also going to be a promo, and so the Fatal Push prices will be just completely decimated because of this. Something like this, though, Goblin Chieftain going from a 0 from 12, you have the exact different opportunity to start investing in them because the trend of it, you just have to check the price trend to see how this is affecting it. It's going to reverse itself from this. So Inkmoth Nexus, for example, would be a pretty decent little spec from 6 to 12. You can also get Inkmoth Nexus, though, in that Modern slot, so keep that in mind, that they have a high chance of Kynios and Tiro of Meletis. This is a good example from 0 to 12. I don't know if this will ever see play in 1v1 Commander, but there's a good little option. A Mindstone from 0 to 12. The decks might, modern decks that actually play this might start outstretching the supply, or the demand starts outstretching the supply, and this could go up in value. So again, be very familiar with this list, especially before you actually do invest in a card. This was a card I was going to invest in, Spire of Industry, and then I looked at the curators list. I'm like, yep, probably should not do that because of the 0 to 20. So very, very good. In my opinion, this is probably the most important thing as far as Magic the Gathering Online is to get familiar with this. So anyway, there are other strategies too that I'll be going over in the particular 100 ticket challenge of how I speculate in Magic the Gathering cards, Magic the Gathering Online cards, because of the clear trends, as well as bots tend to be very exploitable. Anything that has the robotic, when they start giving like a programming value to something. So like the bot has definitely behaviors that it 100% always follows, unless it gets a lot of these, like these mass sellers like MTGO traders. Yes, they're going to look at market trends and they're going to make adjustments, but a lot of it's just automated. And when something's automated, you can find ways to, I don't like to say exploit because exploit's not the right word, but you can find ways to invest based upon how their automation happens. So basically what happens if cards are, if they're buying more than they're selling, then I don't know what their little automation happens, like what the integer is, if like say they're buying 60% more than they're selling. So then they'll decrease the price based upon that until they hit that medium of where they're actually making profit on their sales. Now, why I like MTGO is there's no fees when you buy and sell, and there is just a very slim margin. So a lot of times, like the bots, especially MTGO traders and card hoarders, will buy at, we'll say $4, for example, for a tireless tracker, and they'll sell it for $4.40. And so that margin is like, it's razor thin, a lot of times less than 10%. And so there's a lot less risk, and you just have to follow the trends and you'll be just fine. You'll be able to make out or even just break even. And the second thing I like about MTGO is it's instantaneous. The problem with paper magic is you have to find a buyer. So once you buy into a ton of cards, so one of my specs right now is Zendikar Resurgence. This is a card that I have just known that I'm going to be selling off very, very slowly throughout the next, after it gets to the price point that I want it to get to. I want to start selling it around $250. I'm going to start putting those cards up and selling them slowly over time. It'll take me probably a good year and a half, 2 years to sell a card like that. Whereas on MTGO, I can immediately just get rid of all of my copies through various, I mean, there's enough bots, enough buyers that I can easily just unload them. So that's a huge advantage. Also, there's a pretty good advantage of MTGO when you're ready to sell out. You can sell your tickets for cash quite easily. There's a lot of bots that will pay, I believe, like 0.93 per ticket. So you only pay like a 7% fee. You can actually even find players at times for like getting them for 0.95, 0.96. And that's just a very easy margin compared to trying to sell on eBay or TCG for paper cards. So again, there's very clear-cut trends. In my opinion, it's a less volatile market than paper. A lot of people think it's a more volatile, but the volatility you can use at your advantage because you can know these clear trends. This is a very regulated market where they can throw in when anything becomes scarce, they just chuck it back in. So you can see like Supreme Verdicts. They had some Supreme Verdicts because the price was going up in value, and then like, okay, we flatlined it, let's take it away. Spire of Industries, these are being bought up like crazy. It's going up in value even though it's in a standard set. Let's increase it from a 0 to 20 because of affinity. Yeah, so highly suggest you understand the trends of rotation, of promos, of the curator list, and that's the best way to get your feet wet in the Magic the Gathering online speculation. Again, if you're interested, I'll have a link in the description below for an entire playlist. I'll probably keep all the videos unlisted as I don't want it spamming my channel, but you can follow along with my speculation until I do move it over to another, a completely different YouTube channel. Okay, the second topic I want to talk about, which is an awesome one. I am so stoked do people even use the word stoked anymore? Man, I'm showing my age. To talk about is Cardsphere. Many may credit me for the death of Puka Trade. I was probably the first person to really call out the problems with Puka Trade. And I did it with a video where I called out the Mana Source in Toronto Community College and a few other people for supporting Puka Trade, even though it was a sinking ship. I have been very critical of the past of the leadership of Puka Trade, and to the fact that they even gave me an olive branch and got me on some Skype calls to try to stop my outrage, or at least try to get me back on board. And I still just wasn't impressed in the leadership. If I can sum up Puka Trade in just a few words, it is they just don't get it. They don't get economies. A lot of people have tried to accuse the Puka Trade leadership of being shady on purpose. I just think that they are just naive, unaware of how markets work, and I'm not going to go down that rotten egg of other than it is relevant when we're talking about Cardsphere. If you can go check out all my past videos of all the problems that I had with Puka Trade, and most of them did come to pass. Apparently, people still do trade on Puka Trade, but it's more of like a cult type thing than it is like legit. I still don't. I highly think that you should avoid it like the plague. It's a dead system, and Yeah, so since the fall of Puka Trade, I've been wanting a alternative. Now, Cardsphere is not an alternative. However, I think Cardsphere actually opens up to an entire different form of speculation. So it was nice enough to the Cardsphere leadership to have me on a Skype call, and basically I could throw any question at them that they were very, very transparent, and we had a good exchange. And what I can come out after talking with the leadership of Cardsphere is I am even more impressed. I am even more excited to get going with Cardsphere because I think that we have some very, very competent leadership over at Cardsphere. Now, I am not sponsored in any way, shape, or form with Cardsphere. In fact, one of the things that impressed me the most is they refuse to sponsor anything. They refuse to work they'll work with, I mean, if you want to help them spread the word, of course they're up for it, but they are not going to bribe. They are not going to try to get, because they're so afraid of being compared to the what happened with the Puga trade, that they want all of their growth to be real growth, not just completely legitimate, not people just signing up for the accounts that don't ever want to trade on here. They're not giving out any sort of affiliate or referral bonuses or anything like that. I'm going to talk about that in a bit, though, when we're talking about Cardsphere and why I actually think that referral bonuses should be a thing. But again, we'll get down that. So let's just go over what is Cardsphere. So Cardsphere is a 100% money-backed trading system. So you can get in by two ways. You can get in by buying which is what I did. I had put $100 into Cardsphere, and you can also just get in by finding trades and then sending those trades and then getting the money in your account that way. And so right now, the way that you can get it with money is you can use a credit card, get right in. And the way you cash out is you just cash out and they take a 10% fee or $10, whatever more. And the reason why they do it is to disincentivize people from just cashing out. They want to build up how much value is in the trading system. But, eventually people will want cash, or there will be people. It's basically a guarantee that you're not going to get screwed from your value, like Puka Trade did to so many people. I don't want to know how many people just got completely obliterated by the value of their Puka point going down to nothing, and then they did those stupid lotteries, which was the stupidest thing ever, where they were selling like tropical islands for 50 times the value of what they were worth. It wasn't that high, but astronomical value in these lotteries because people had no faith in the Puka point. They were just desperate to get out of it in any way, shape, or form. So anyway, it's backed up. They've completely backed up the process so that if you do want out, you can always cash out for USD, United States dollar. So anyway, the way this works too is that when you do sell a card, they are going to charge a 1% transaction fee, and this just goes to pay for the upkeep of the site, the server costs, everything like that. And so that's incredibly reasonable. If you compare that to like what TCG and eBay, when you're hitting like 13% per transaction, that is quite heavy of a transaction fee. So why do I like Cardsphere the most? So basically, it's also, they are so receptive to ideas. Like, I've been talking to them on Twitter for quite a while, like, hey, I've got this idea for you. And they are very receptive, and the communication is just phenomenal between the developers of Cardsphere and the user base. And so basically, right now, though, it is, in my opinion, a buyer's market. So the difference between Puka Trade and Cardsphere, which I was calling for Puka Trade for the longest time, was you can increase or decrease the amount you are willing to pay for a card. So right now on my wants list, I am using this as a massive buy list. I am using Cardsphere as comparable to what other stores want to buy cards for. So why I think this is so important is this is giving back to the little guy. You have the option to be just like Star City Games. In fact, I think it's going to make Star City Games and TCG, like a lot of the stores on TCG Player and Channel Fireball and Card Kingdom, pay a lot more of a premium for cards. Like, I like Grand Prix because all the vendors are in one space and they have to compete. But when they're online, they can just throw it out there. And like Star City Games is notorious for buying cards at like 20, 15% of the value of what they sell them for. And you'll get some better ones like Channel Fireball a lot of times is around 35, 40%. Just go check like MTG Goldfish or MTG Price, and you can click on the buy list prices, and you can see exactly how much vendors give for particular cards, and it's usually lower than 40%, I would say. So this allows me to, as a speculator, to get cards at 50%, 40%, 60% of their value, and it also allows you, as the seller, to actually go and find people that you can go sell your cards to that you, I mean, that is a better rate. So sell that to a person for 50% is a lot better than going to Star City Games and selling it for 20% of its value. So people, it's better for both worlds. As a buyer, I can get cheaper cards than using TCG Player Low. As a seller, you can get a better buy list than going through Channel Fireball or one of those type of vendors. So this is a game changer with the finance world. It's going to stabilize prices a lot better. It's going to cut out these big vendors and go to, I mean, sure, maybe they'll enter the space eventually. But the more people in a certain venue, the better for overall, like health of, it's called Pareto, what is it? Pareto's equilibrium is where, or Pareto efficiency is the terminology for economics, where both the buyer and seller can no longer go to, like, the haggling is just part of it in the equation. So the best case scenario for a seller is, of course, to sell at the highest price possible. The best case scenario for a buyer is, of course, to buy at the best price possible. So, for example, me as a seller, my best case scenario would get CryptoThrite for $1 billion. I would sell it for that, and that'd be my ultimate opportunity. So as far as morals or ethics are concerned, me as a seller should be trying to get the highest price possible. Then as a buyer, your best case scenario would be get a CryptoThrite for free. So then we come to the first battle between buyer and seller. Well, we haggle, and to a price point which they call Pareto efficient or Pareto equilibrium, where you cannot, as a buyer and a seller, you cannot go higher nor lower for an optimal price point to where the buyer and the seller are still happy. And that is what an economy should always strive for. So governments or businesses should always try to strive for finding that Pareto efficiency. So I think Cardsphere is going to happen very, very quickly, because if people don't want to sell to me, of course, I'm going to adjust my prices to where I'm happy. So, I mean, these are the prices I'm happy of buying. And a lot of people might say these are unreasonable. Well, you don't have to sell them to me. If you can find a better opportunity, go for it. But if you can't, and this is the best, that's better than a card rotting. If you don't have any use for that, I mean, right now it is better than using Star City Games or all the other buy lists. You're going to get a better premium on Cardsphere, I guarantee it. And so far, I have found buyers. I think in the tune of $25 spent, a little over $25. I'll show you what people actually have sent. And so that's one of the complaints I get right now is people like, well, I can't find a trade where anyone wants anything at 100%. Whoop-de-doo. It's still better than what you could find a trade elsewhere on the internet. Just know that. Just understand that's just how the game's going to work. And the more people that actually get into the system, the better deals you're going to be able to find. And Cardsphere is they're going to allow a lot of other like browse type features. And I even think that maybe they should have some like an auction house type listing if you do want like to get rid of cards. That would actually be, I think those are things in the future that I think should be implemented. And I do have a lot of faith that the Cardsphere leadership will do so. They are smart people. In fact, it was 3 Puka traders that were so dissatisfied with the service that they started their own service. And usually that's when you get really, really good businesses. I mean, that's kind of the whole story of even like super giants like Walmart, is they were just so dissatisfied with, you know, how Kmart worked at the time. I think that's the story of how that entire industry got started, is just out of dissatisfaction with the status quo. And so they went and they started this whole service, and they listened to the community woes. They listened to people like me that wanted to be able to adjust prices, and they came up with this. So again, I highly suggest that you do join Cardsphere and try it out. They are 100% committed to keeping it free, meaning that you don't ever have to put anything into the system. I decided to put $100 in because, like I said, I'm going to use Cardsphere as a buy list. I'm having a hard time really sending off cards because people are willing to send cards at lower than I am, which is fine. You know, I have a store, I have access to sell at other venues, so therefore this doesn't work for me as a seller. But for other people that don't, I mean, this is a lot of times it's better to sell on Cardsphere. I hate to say this because I'm a local game store, and one of the best income avenues we have is people selling cards directly to us, usually for store credit. For the best is booster packs because we get to double dip. I buy at 50% of the value of a card, and then for store credit, or I buy for 25%. So if they want cash at my store, I buy for 25% of a card. If they want store credit, they get 50%. But you got to think that I, as a store, get product at 50%. So I'm effectively buying cards at 25% of their value. Most stores are very similar to that. So most stores will buy 20%, something like that. You have to check your own local game store what their value of they give in actual cash is. So this would give that person that usually sells their local game store a better bang for their buck. Then they can still do the same too. You don't have to be a seller or a buyer. You can be both on this site. So say you want an obscure card that you don't think that is moving in the market, put it up for 50%. What I'm doing right now on Cardsphere is I'm putting a lot of cards that are rotating for a negative 65% of the value, and I'm getting people actually sending me cards. So something like Crypto with Right, I had it negative 65%, and people were sending me that card because they just don't have any use for it. They're going to be rotating out of standard. They don't play other formats. At least get something, any sort of value out of it. So I think this is a game changer, and I highly recommend that you check out Cardsphere. One more time, I have no affiliation with them. I'm not being sponsored. I just think that I'm a genuine believer in this product. So anyway, let me show you some other things. So you can add cards that you want. All right, so here we go. Let's just go through this. So first of all, you can search a card. So what's a card that I want to buy that I need cards of? That I do need Archangel Thunes. And a lot of things too, you can go check buy lists of like MTG Price or MTG Goldfish and just kind of match the buy list. Or you can go to TCG Low and kind of match what you could buy them on TCG Low. So right now it's saying that the value of Archangel Thune is 23. I'm okay with a slightly played. And I do need these cards, so I am going to give a negative. Yeah, I need these cards. So I'm going to do a negative 30. I'm going to see if anyone wants to. I need 3 of them. I see if anyone wants to send them to me for $14.54. Again, that's going to be well above most buy lists, I'm sure. And 30% usually you'll get a hit within a reasonable time. Now, if you do want cards, if you want them immediately, 100% you'll get a card. If you put anything, even a fetch limit for 100%, you'll get that card like almost instantaneously. Because like I said, it's more of a buyer's market at the moment on Cardsphere than it is a seller's market. So that's right there is just the way that you can get a card or add a card to your want list. What I also like about Cardsphere is besides just setting the price, you can set a price limit. Say the price spikes. Okay, I don't want to spend more than I don't want to spend more than $18 on this card. It's going to cap it. It's never going to go above $18. So say the Archangel Thune spikes tomorrow up to $50. It's not going to all of a sudden spike up. That was one of the major problems with PucaTrade, and then they started adding it as like a premium fee that you could put. It's just ridiculous the way they gouged you on PucaTrade at the end. Like they added so many free points to the system that it caused hyperinflation, and then they tried to correct it by the exact opposite, by just gouging people for all of these like fees they started tacking on. So anyway, enough about PucaTrade. These people at Cardsphere are very well versed in the woes and the downfall, that they've been able to correct it with. Basically, they added everything I wanted. Everything I wanted from the PucaTrade. All right, so then on the sending, first you have to add to your halves. And so I have a bunch of cards here that I have a bunch of that I want to get rid of. Just that I was, testing the market. Some cards that are rotating that I don't want. Some emblems, some of the pre-release stuff that I opened up. Like I opened up a foil. Mayhap the Eternal, for example. So you can add all of your halves, and then you go to send, and it's very similar to PucaTrade. It will find packages for you, and like right here, this guy wants the Thoughtseize at 100%. That would probably be a good. I think this is going on TCG for about that 127. I don't know if Zach actually did sell it on eBay, so I have to check with Zach. But here would be like a very good send. So I can send off my Thoughtseize to this guy for $127.49. And then you just go through the regular process of you'd go to review, and then you'd say, yes, I want to confirm this trade, or it gives you 10 minutes to decide, and then you'd send it off to this person. Very similar to Puka Trade. So very, like you can see though, right now it is a buyer's market. Like there isn't a lot of people that, like 51% for Always Watching, 71% for Liliana. This guy wants it at 53%. Torrential Gear Hoax at 75% of value, $13.52, stuff like that. It gives you, there aren't nearly as many options. Like I said, right now it's so much more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. But the more people in the system, I think that this will, again, we'll come to that Pareto efficiency eventually. But again, as far as the MTG finance world is concerned, this is a game changer. And once again, I highly recommend that you check it out. Now, problems with Cardsphere. It's in its infancy, and they admit that. There needs to be a lot of things. First of all, there needs to be a browse feature. Admittedly, what they said is not all three of the creators never used the browse feature for Puka Trade. They all just imported a list of their collection and then looked for packages that they imported everything they wanted to sell, and then just did that on Puka Trade. And so when they created Cardsphere, they just didn't have a browse feature. Now me, as a Puka trader and as anything else, I was a browser. So I didn't want to import my mass quantities. In fact, I also didn't want to have the package service find cards that I wasn't willing to sell at the time. And it just seems more of a painstaking for me to adding all of my inventory and then weed out the sales that I don't want to sell. So I was a browser on Puka Trade. So I would just browse people's profiles and browse just cards in general and be like, oh, this card went up, see if anyone actually wants it. And then I'm like, okay, Eighth Revolt, the Fatal Pushes are coming out here. Let's just look at a Fatal Push, see if anyone wants a Fatal Push, and click on Fatal Push. Well, at the moment, they just show you a price. That is basically the extent of Cardsphere. It doesn't show you a list of all the people that want that. So that is a flaw right now, and they're aware of that, and that's something that's going to come in their next big update. And so people like me will have a way to then kind of do what they call the browse sell type function. So that's one thing that I think is inferior at the moment. Another thing is I think that they really should rethink their policies, because again, they're so terrified of being related to the Ponzi scheme or the pyramid scheme, I don't know exactly how you want to call it, a Puka Trade, that they want to avoid any sort of referral fee as possible. Well, the thing is, they are backing their cash out money. So it isn't free money that's getting entered into the system. They're not paying referral fees based upon the community's value. It is them. They are acting as a bank, and therefore they are fronting the value. And I really think that they should rethink their policy on referral bonuses as a customer acquisition cost. And they need to find a good, like, what exactly it would cost them on traditional marketing to find new customers, and give that out instead in the form of a referral bonus. It will keep their customers happy at the moment, because then people like me that have access to a large channel could actually make a significant amount of referral bonuses just by referring people. And as much as I hate it, as much as I'm not a fan of Brian or Wedge, just over the years of just, you know, the disingenuous nature that they promote things, and you know, they need to make a buck. I understand that, but I think that it actually would be good for Cardsphere if someone like Wedge would pick this up and then try to shill it out like crazy. The more people in the service, the better. The faster we will get to that Pareto efficiency. And right now we're very, very low. As you can see, only $13,000 have been traded, which is chump change in just the scope of the Magic the Gathering finance world. And I think referral bonuses are the fastest way to get a large community, because it incentivizes people joining the service and incentivizes people recruiting into the service. And I don't think they need to be so terrified of kind of the Puka Trade thing, because they are backing it. It's a customer acquisition cost. So what they should do for a referral bonus is say, okay, if your person, they should have tiers. You refer a person and they put $20 into the what they should do is they should give that cash out fee to the referral or split it 50-50. So basically, if a person puts in $20 into the system, the first $20 they put in, they give $1 to, so they make it 21 and then give the refer $1 as well. And I think that's probably pretty legit because there's no real risk, because what ends up happening is if they do cash out you'll get that back immediately. You'll get the $2.10 back actually. So they'll actually be up. Well, yeah, because they gave $2 out, $2 into the system and then took $2.10 out if they were to cash out. So say someone like does this massive referral and gets like $1,000 on referral and then never even uses the service and then decides to cash out. And so they cash out their $1,000 out of the system. They are still like, that money didn't come from nowhere. That money was generated into the system by people buying into it. And that still is there. So we're net neutral or slightly up and have a lot more users actually, buying and selling. So that's the way I think they should do their referral program. Is it shouldn't be a joining thing. It should be a deposit thing. So the first deposit of that person should go, they could split it between the referral and the depositor. And I think that's the best way to do it. So again, it's there definitely is some, they even admit they have the programming guy, they have the community guy, they have that, but they really are missing like a really savvy marketer. And I think once they kind of get more savvy with marketing, admittedly, that's even one of the things they say they have the flaw of. I think that this is going to be a great service. So I know they are watching this video. I'll talk again, I'm sure, with them about after now that I have used this service about kind of the things that need to change before this becomes like a really efficient service. But I am more than excited to give my stamp of approval to Cardsphere at this, kind of very, very early stage. And again, I really do trust the leadership. They were so adamant about like how like the ethics mean a lot to these guys. And again, I was super impressed with talking to them. And I hope I'd never lead you astray. Like I have turned down so many sponsorships in the past by people just wanting me to shill their garbage. And I hope that's one thing that I've given to my community is just 100% transparency and just I hope you can trust me. Like I've never wanted to come across as just a person trying to exploit my users. And I hope I've been very transparent with Patreon. Hope I've been very, very transparent the way that I run my store. I've had some people complain that we sell like repacks at my store, saying that's the most disingenuous thing. When I can tell you that Zach and I are so open and honest when we sell a repack. Whenever we take away a repack, whenever we run out of them, customers complain that we don't have them. For whatever reason, people like to buy them. And it's the same thing with like a lot of these things that I would never buy a Deck Pillars toolkit. I try to steer people away from buying Deck Pillars toolkit. But every time we don't have them in our store, people complain. And so it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm just being awkward here, trying to tell you I'm a good person, because usually people that try to say that end up being the most shady people ever. But anyway, I would never lead my subscribers astray, and Cardsphere so far seems to be legit. Again, no sponsorship. They have no plans on ever sponsoring anyone. And yeah, maybe I'll have to do an interview with the gentleman over at Cardsphere sometime, and you can get to meet them and get a better overview of their service. So this is kind of an awkward Market Monday video. Again, I'll have the links in the description below for the curators list, as well as links to Cardsphere. And again, there's no affiliate code or anything like that. So hope you come join us over here at Cardsphere. And I'll try to for Market Mondays in the future, we'll try to find some like the best ways. I am starting to get a feel for the market of Cardsphere, and it's going to change. The more people in, it's going to shift. There's going to be some behavioral shifts of how the economy works, and we'll try to stay on top of the best ways possible to do this. But this really does seem like it's going to give a lot back to the little guy, the actual player, and give us an outlet to buy and sell and trade at a much more affordable rate than trying to do eBay and buy lists or other ways we've done in the past. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.